In 2022, the Earth sent strong signals to human beings again, which cannot be ignored. In October, about a month before the 27th Conference of the Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called on all countries to make climate action the global priority.
A third of Pakistan flooded. Europe's hottest summer in 500 years. The Philippines hammered. The whole of Cuba in blackouts. And here in the United States, Hurricane Ian has delivered a brutal reminder that no country and no economy is immune from the climate crisis.
The Provisional State of the Global Climate in 2022 report, released by the World Meteorological Organization earlier in November, says extreme heat waves, drought, and devastating flooding have affected millions and cost billions this year.
صدح سنة الروب نومدين هذا ماشي أنا نشوف صدح سنة الروب كمدين هي العام أجرته نرش العام أجره بالكيس أرندو ساسوية أنو وحنا هيدا مرصة.
It's very dry, as you can see. It's not just here; it's everywhere. Climate change is definitely happening.
D'année en année, c'est de plus en plus fort, je trouve, et de plus en plus tôt.
And some countries in the Horn of Africa region have failed to see proper rain over the past 4 consecutive rainy seasons, with the 5th predicted. Humans and animals, domestic and wild alike, are thirsty, and many cannot wait to see the next rain.
ولينا ولي بعد شيء لودي إيه ولي هاي رينكي لادن بيرنو ولي بدأنا كبيجة أول أماي يون لادن ولكم أيلي قبل كلك
أبارتن ويسا ميسا ولا سدرن يوسا ميسا أوجد ميسا الرب كل عين صدح سنة كبر أنت الرب كل عين مركا أد بيوسا ميسا ولا حوي وقتي حاجة لحولها بعيها لوري دورك إلا كتوكا هلكن شادين ملكس بعيها اللي جري وتتان جري وانكو عبيني حاجة وانكو عبيني جيال كله وانكو عبيني حاجة كله حد حاجة كله صدحات بس وضل انتس وحولها مارت دورك وتتان جري اللي جوا منها.
Some countries that contribute least to the climate crisis are getting hit the hardest.
When we look at the impacts of the climate crisis, we're also seeing this inequality where those that have contributed least to the climate crisis are facing its most significant impacts.
Vulnerable communities here have done very little to contribute to climate change, living largely off of the land and without polluting technology.
With insufficient adaptation ability and external support, developing countries are the principal victims of climate change. 13 years ago in Copenhagen, developed countries promised to mobilize $100 billion per year for climate action in developing countries, but have so far defaulted with all kinds of excuses.
The commitments made at Paris have still not been honored for raising $100 billion per annum. And we think that in order to re-establish trust between developed and developing countries, it will be very important that these are honored.
The developed countries in the north, who are primarily responsible for the climate crisis, need to step up to the table and deliver on their previous commitments.
Some of the developed countries also fall victim to climate change.
Our sagebrushes, they're all dried, all the weeds and all that. The weeds dry, but our sagebrush the roots go further and further down to get water, but they're not the same color like they used to be. Everything's drying and it's just hard to see. I know we have this climate change.
Pero así de continuar estas olas de 40, 40, 41, 39, no lo había conocido nunca. Esto tiene que ser error nuestro.
Es una zona de 800 o 1000 kilos por hectárea y podemos hablar de 400 como mucho que se estima.
However, the loss and damage caused by extreme weather are only the most visible, while social impacts may be covert, but more far-reaching and formidable.
Cái miêu cái gì? Này thằng này nó buồn nó cái ya pi nó cái run này bên đi đây, lúc cái dân nhảy buồn, chỉ có mùi buồn đấy nhảy nhảy, có gì miêu cắn, nó cái miêu cắn đấy buồn luôn đấy.
The surface area of land permanently submerged underwater has tripled, and an already dire food security situation exacerbated, leaving 2.9 million people at risk of starvation.
Reduced food production is only one of the broad impacts of climate change. More are expected.
Climate change has really very broad impacts. Now we're talking about extreme temperatures and heat waves, but it also affects agricultures beyond ecosystems, so production of food.
Facing a common challenge, mankind has to make a choice in the face of the cooperate or perish question. In November, representatives of nearly 200 nations attended the 27th session of the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Egypt's Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. The UN chief warned at the UN Climate Conference that the planet is fast approaching the tipping point that will make climate chaos irreversible.
I'm here to appeal to all parties to rise to this moment and to the greatest challenge that humanity is facing.
Despite the warning, the conference was extended for more than a day till the proposed agenda was finished. A long-awaited loss and damage fund to help those countries vulnerable to climate change was approved at the end of the conference. But is it enough to mitigate climate change?
遗憾的呢，就是发达国家在这个1000亿美金出资的这个方面呢，还没有兑现承诺。同时呢，对适应资金加倍的问题呢，还没有给出明确的时间表、路线图。这也是让广大发展国家强烈不满的。